Hello, everyone out there in the global and digital world. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Nikola. I'm an author, spiritual teacher, and philosopher. And this is Spirit X, YouTube channel where we explore modern day spirituality. So, our major inquiry is what does it mean to be spiritual in the present day? So in today's video, I want to talk about my first book, Spirit X Basic Principles. So I wrote and published the book 2 years ago, so it still feels like a baby, to be honest. Some people read it, some audience is still awaiting to discover it. Some folks who read the book suggested that I do the video, and some folks who haven't read the book suggested that I do the video, so I accepted the challenge. So this video is basically about my first book, but my first book also lays down the foundations of my spiritual teaching, which is called Spirit X. So it's a kind of double introduction. Today's video, it's an introduction to my first book, but it's an introduction to my teaching, which I think responds to certain challenges of what spiritual teachings should be doing in present day world. So the full title of the book is Spirit X, Spirituality for the Global and Digital World, Basic Principles. So I wanted to write something for present day, and I defined our era as global and digital. It's global in a sense that teachings are available to us globally for the first time in the history of humankind. And it's digital. I think the impact of information technology evolution was massive, and that spiritual teaching should take that into consideration, but should also utilize that. So here we are connected via YouTube, which is a kind of modern day of doing spiritual practice. The book contains 69 principles, and I envision the book that the reader reads the book slowly, and then pause and then digests each principle. I suggest that readers read a kind of as a sequence, but they can skip principles and open various pages. So in that regard, the book has, and the teaching has, many entry points depending on reader's temperament. So I chose the number 69 because spiritually the number 69 represents infinity. So there is 6 and there is 9, and together they form infinity. And my major goal with the book in that regard was to create a program for our finite nature to rest in our infinite nature, to our relative self to rest in our absolute self, which is not that difficult. That program started about 2000 years ago in India. I called it genuine spirituality. From there we had various streams: Hinduism, Buddhism, mystical Christianity, Taoism, Sufism, etc. But that program never became a mainstream. Religion became mainstream. Secular philosophy and attitude became a mainstream. But genuine spirituality is still struggling to become a mainstream. I think it's time, because of the crisis and because of our potential, for that to happen. And Spirit X in that regard is a attempt to do that. I do think that genuine spiritual practice is necessary present day. It's necessary individually because we need to stay sane, and we also deserve to go deeper. It's necessary culturally because we are going through and socially we are going through a major transition, and more spirit can help. So those are those 69 principles. So our separate relative nature is resting in our infinite nature. As of the structure of the book, I created, and the teaching, I created 2 layers. So the book and teaching is envisioned like a development of a practitioner through various layers. So if you are a beginner, you start with first layer, and if you are a little bit more advanced practitioner, you can actually jump on the second layer too. So layers are Spirit X 1.0 and 2.0. So there are two levels, two layers within the book and within the teaching. Spirit X 1.0 is a basic level of spiritual global practice, which means that at that level, spiritual practitioners design their own spiritual practice, combining from various spiritual traditions based on their spiritual practitioner temperament. So in terms of practices, we have meditation, prayer, contemplation, working with the teacher, belonging to Sangha, attending satsang, attending kirtan and stuff like that. So lots of practices from various traditions that can be utilized for our spiritual growth and unfolding. But that's a kind of basic level of the basic level. What I did within that level, so I invited practitioners to actually include their everyday lives on the path and to the path. So the ultimate goal of the first level of Spirit X teaching is the blending of spiritual practice and spiritual life. And what I mean by it, you probably experience that. So you meditate in the morning and then you go to work. So your day was kind of split between good times and bad times. Good times was meditation felt great, you drop deeper, you calm down your nervous system, etc. And then work was challenging because there's always boss, there's always co-worker, etc. So what I attempted to do and offer with Spirit X 1.0 is a program to blend that uncomfortable distinction between work and between spiritual practice and life, if that makes sense. So my, I think, biggest discovery within this part of teaching was that everything within our everyday lives can be used as a spiritual practice. Everything on the path is a spiritual practice. Everything on the path, in whatever dimension of our lives, can be used as a means for our spiritual growth and unfolding. And by everything, I literally mean everything. So nature, work, relationships, other people, culture, society, government, science, technology, culture, pop culture, everything can be turned into a means of our spiritual growth and unfolding. So that way, Spirit X 1.0 becomes this program for a rich spiritual practice, which becomes a spiritual life. So check it out. I'll put the link of the for the book in the description below. So that was Spirit X 1.0. So Spirit X 2.0 is an advanced level of spiritual practitioner, which actually leads to eventually to spiritual awakening. And it's based on a very simple premise and very simple spiritual insight. And the spiritual insight is that there are actually two major dimensions of spirit when we talk about spirituality. There is the ultimate dimension of spirit and relative dimension of spirit. There is unmanifested dimension of spirit and there is manifested dimension of spirit. And I thought that the modern day spiritual teaching should successfully cover both of those areas and put them together into a kind of balanced and meaningful whole and oneness. So we need that access and breakthrough towards the unmanifested, because that's where peace, love, oneness, unity ultimately is. So the cheesecake when it comes to spirituality is actually beyond the personal level. You can be enlightened and hold on an ego. You need to let go of ego identification to experience and become deeper love, deeper peace, nirvana, all of those cool spiritual words. So that has to happen. So in Spirit X 2.0, with my teaching of the ways, I developed a program for various ways of towards liberation, towards our true self, and even stabilizing your attention there, which is a big deal. Not only glimpsing, by stabilizing. And some ways include the way of meditation, the way of awareness, the way of the spiritual warrior, the way of the trickster, the way of the spiritual muse, etc. So lots of possibilities for us to glimpse and stabilize is pure awareness, our true self. But successful spiritual teaching, I thought, has to be very skillful in navigating the manifest world, because you have relationship, you have work, you have sex, you have finances, you have everything. So that's also spiritual practice too. So I introduced this teaching of the codes, and codes help us actually navigating skillfully and meaningfully the world of manifestation. So you are awakened in terms of the ways, and then you use codes actually to play the meaningfully, ethically, and skillfully the way of life. So some codes include the child code, achiever code, the 60s code, Mediterranean code. The basic teaching with codes is that every code has the sense of self and the sense of the world. And when you skillfully activate the code, all of a sudden the world appears certain way, and you are skillfully, like a surfer, riding the wave. As a child, you activate the child within you, and then you open your eyes, and the world appears as a field of wonder, and then you just play like a child. And then if you need to achieve something or whatever, you activate the achiever code. So you activate with perseverance within you, with the strategies within you or whatever, and then you open your eyes, and the world is this field of possibilities that you can navigate skillfully and achieve certain goals on your own or as a member of the team. So that's the idea of behind codes. And ways and codes together on this level gives us this amazing life that we deserve by the precious human birth. So that way, Spirit X is an invitation for us to actually introduce genuine spirituality into the world and in many areas of our lives, and to be happy, fulfilled, and useful, and to serve in this tricky transition we are going all together collectively. So that's all for this video. I hope this helps. If this is helpful, please consider liking and subscribing, because that way you are helping us helping you. Please check out the links in the description, and the new video is coming in 2 or 3 days. I'm liking this interaction with you, and let me know what other topics would you like to discuss. Thank you very much. Sending blessings to everyone, and thanks for your attention. Bye bye.